there, welcome. This is the Kelly's Astrology podcast, where you can find insight, guidance, and understanding through astrology. I'm Kelly, and I'll be your host. Hi there. Thanks for joining me for this week's episode of the Kelly's Astrology podcast. If you've been enjoying the show for a while now, please do subscribe or follow along wherever you listen to podcasts. This week, I'm going to talk about two oppositions to the planet Uranus. Now, Uranus is a planet that is associated with things happening in an unexpected or unusual manner. So this middle part of November definitely looks like it's going to bring a few surprises, maybe even a dramatic revelation. Before we dive into all the themes and qualities of this week's astrology, I wanted to let you know there's a new live cohort of my beginner astrology course happening right now. If you're curious about astrology or you want to add more meaning and magic to your life, you can join the group right now via my website, kellysastrology.com. If you've been self-taught with astrology and you're ready to fill in any gaps in your knowledge, maybe you're really ready to deepen your understanding of what a birth chart is, this course will be invaluable. So many students who have taken more intermediate or advanced courses of mine come back to this foundational 6-part training to help them better understand how a birth chart is put together. So if studying astrology is right for you right now, I look forward to seeing you in class real soon. So back to this week's two Uranus aspects. There are two encounters with Uranus happening. So the first is an opposition from Mars in Scorpio to Uranus in Taurus. And that aspect is happening on November 11 or November 12th, depending on where you are. The second aspect is the Sun in Scorpio opposing Uranus in Taurus. And that aspect is happening November 13 or November 14, again, depending on where you are. So if we just take a broad overview of this week starting November 11, we've got this few day period starting November 11 and running through to November 14, where this wildcard planet Uranus is really active. So we've got two different aspects to Uranus just in this 3 or 4 day period. So when we get so much Uranus activity in a short space of time, it does mean that anything is possible. Expect the unexpected. Whether you realize it or not, you've bought a ticket on the Uranus roller coaster this week. It also means that some chaos or even a little bit of upheaval is likely. In astrology, Uranus is the planet of rebellion and revolution. Uranus is all about pushing back against limiting expectations, and it's very much about innovation. It's about breaking patterns and moving forward. When Uranus is active, it can show that you might be especially restless or even a little bit bored, as if some of the regular responsibilities or routines in your life have started to feel a bit restrictive. So if you feel like you want to make a wild choice or make a decision that seems a bit radical but is actually totally right for you this week, then I'd say you're really tuned in to the strong Uranus themes that are coming through. To give you some context, the Sun does oppose Uranus once every year, and right now that's happening sometime in November each year. But Mars only opposes Uranus once every 2 years. So it's quite striking and really notable that these two unique aspects are happening within just a few days of each other this year. I think that makes this sort of few day period, November 11 to 14, it's really intense. And there is this really kind of restless, unsettled energy that's going to come through really strongly. So we do get a Mars opposite Uranus aspect every 2 years. We get a Sun opposite Uranus aspect every year, but it is a little unusual to have these two aspects basically happening at the same time. Now, of those two aspects, the Mars opposite Uranus one is the more dramatic aspect. And that's the aspect that might be more problematic or more disruptive in the course of your events and experiences this week. So let's go a little deeper with what you can expect with Mars opposite Uranus. So Mars will be at 21 Scorpio and will oppose Uranus at 21 Taurus. Now, anytime Mars and Uranus make one of those dynamic, bold, or known as those hard aspects, like anytime Mars and Uranus are in a conjunction, a square, or an opposition, we're going to get that kind of electric sparks might fly. This is a very combustible energy. It is like a fire starting energy. It's about whipping things up or, like energizing passions, but also it can really inflame like anger or frustration. And so this is a combustible aspect that definitely has some volatile themes, like outbursts, if you like. So in your everyday life, what this Mars opposite Uranus aspect might feel like is that you might feel so frustrated that you kind of lash out, or that you're having an outburst about something that's been really irritating you for a while and you just can't keep it in any longer. It might be that an annoying situation kind of really starts to aggravate or anger you and sort of reaches that boiling over point. You might feel really compelled to make sort of an impulsive decision. You might be like, I've got to make this change right now. That's the energy of Mars Uranus. The heat, the stimulation is very extreme, and we want to move or change things as a result of that. There's definitely an impulsive quality to Mars opposite Uranus. Sometimes that's not so great. We can be a bit reactive, or we can make a decision in the heat of the moment that we then want to change after the fact. But one thing I really like about this type of aspect, it's not pleasant or smooth. It's definitely kind of like bumpy and fast and a little bit prickly, but it's very authentic. That's another one of our keywords for Uranus. In this instance with Mars opposite Uranus, you kind of know what you know what you feel, and you can't fake it or pretend otherwise. And so if you really can't stand a particular situation anymore, it may be that this Mars-Uranus aspect this weekend really kind of prompts you or pushes you into that place of making a totally radical change, or a choice that might bring some chaos, but will ultimately lead to more freedom or authenticity for you. So shaking things up and changing long-standing patterns or habits. We want to break away from something that has become a bit congested or a bit sluggish, or maybe it's just gotten really boring. So we're wanting to shake things up. We're wanting to kind of stir things around. Mars opposite Uranus will definitely prompt actions and reactions. So last minute changes are likely. It might be that you change what you want, or you're having to respond at the last minute to somebody else's spur of the moment change. You might be getting really clear on what you will and won't put up with. And those changes as a result of those realizations are almost like necessary for your personal growth and evolution. Now, this aspect is a strong aspect. It is probably going to touch all of our lives in one way or another. But this aspect will be especially important for you if you have any planets at 21 degrees of Scorpio or Taurus, or also 21 degrees of Leo and Aquarius, which are the other fixed signs. Or if any of those 4 fixed signs are on the angular houses in your birth chart. Now, if you're working with the timing technique of annual perfections and Mars is your current time lord, then this aspect is going to be a little more important for you as well. So symptoms of a Mars-Uranus aspect can include feeling really bored or restless, like life isn't interesting or exciting anymore. It can also be about connecting with the courage or that boldness to really help you make a major change. That idea of feeling kind of hot under the collar, or that I need to burst out or break away, these are also all part of the Mars-Uranus aspect experience. So there's definitely likely to be some chaos, that feeling of like being on a roller coaster where things are up and down and chopping and changing really quickly. And maybe a sense of feeling like everything is up in the air for a period of time. That's really common with Mars opposite Uranus. So now let's take a look at the Sun opposite Uranus aspect. It's happening just a couple of days later, 24 to 48 hours after the Mars-Uranus aspect. It's happening at the same degrees. The Sun will have come to 21 Scorpio and be opposing Uranus at 21 Taurus. And it'll be November 13 or November 14, depending on where you are. Now, the Sun Uranus aspect, it definitely has that sort of dramatic change, breakthrough, break free theme, but it's not quite as volatile as Mars Uranus. It does still bring themes of change. It's just maybe not as dramatic or maybe not as aggressive as the Mars Uranus aspect can be. Instead, with the Sun opposite Uranus, the area or the topics or the themes that really get activated with this are around identity, around your core self, and around the ways in which you do or don't bring your core true essence into your life. Sun Uranus aspects can also describe changes with leaders or authority figures, figureheads, because they're all Sun type people. So we could be looking for that collectively, but at a personal level, a Sun Uranus opposition aspect can highlight some of the frustration or friction of what happens when you're not fully yourself. So it's sort of a showing you where the irritation is, but also like the encouragement to sort of break through something or push through something and really be who you are. And so that's an important theme with the Sun opposite Uranus. And in addition to the technical points that I've shared about the Mars Uranus, like if you have planets at these degrees, it'll be more active for you. If you have fixed signs in your angular houses, that's more active for you. With the Sun opposite Uranus, if the Sun is your time lord, then this aspect will be really striking for you. But because the general theme of Sun Uranus is about authenticity and expressing your individuality, another way we can tell if it's really going to stir you personally is that it kind of depends on how much of your genuine light and essence you're already sharing in your life. And then how much of who you really are you're kind of hiding or keeping pushed down. Because the Sun opposite Uranus aspect is really like a burst of authenticity. It's like a breaking out or a breaking through, maybe overcoming something so you can really radiate your quirky, unconventional, but very genuine light into the world. And so the Sun opposite Uranus aspect might bring a surprising change. It might bring a realization about something you want more or less of. And each of those things will help you be more truly yourself. Uranus represents the misfits, the people or the desires we have that may not fit the norm. Like when you realize the thing that is totally right for you might actually set you apart or mark you as different from what your peers, your family, or your social group might think is like the thing. A little like being a red rose in a field of white tulips. And in fact, this Sun opposite Uranus aspect is really about encouraging you to identify and celebrate your unique qualities. You aren't actually like anyone else, and that's a great thing. It's not a reason to wonder what's wrong with you or to get into like a self-critical space about, I don't want those things. Why not? What's wrong with me? Why can't I be like others? The Sun Uranus opposition aspect is like, you're not like others, and let's radiate that unique brilliance that only you have out into the world. And this is actually why I love a good Sun Uranus aspect. When I work with clients around this aspect, it's really a very liberating, freeing time that helps them awaken to something that is really essential to their authentic self. So this aspect, Sun Uranus, November 13, 14, can help remind you of your personal quirks, your individual kind of preferences and desires and dreams. And then it can encourage you to let those quirky characteristics shine through. And this is literally what it means to be authentic and to let your core real self show up. So you've heard me use that word authentic a lot and individuality, and these are really key concepts with a Sun Uranus aspect. This might mean that you express a really genuine opinion at work or with family and friends, even if that point of view is different from what others have, or if it's different from the point of view you've had in the past. Sun Uranus is definitely about change. It's about the acknowledgement that we're going to be different month to month, year to year. And we want to make sure we're updating, how we are in the world based on who we are today. And we're not getting stuck in habits or tendencies that the old you, the you from 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 7 years ago was really into. So ultimately, Uranus really is about freedom. It's about There is some upheaval and chaos for sure. So that's going to be, definitely part of this period. Unexpected developments, things having to change, that topsy-turvy feeling. But I don't think this idea of change or upheaval is for nothing when Uranus is around. I actually think Uranus aspects like this represent periods in time where those changes or upheavals or those breaking with the past kind of things really lead you closer to the essence of who you are. And it can encourage, sometimes it forces or pushes us a bit to really shine your authentic light out into the world in new ways. So there's sort of this freeing, like, what are you holding back for? Just kind of be out in the world, put that thing out in the world, say that thing, make that decision that's really right for you. So if you make a choice that surprises others, but feels really freeing for you this week, I'd say you've tapped in to that wild Uranus spirit beautifully. Uranus is interested in your personal kind of evolution and authentic expression. And sometimes that means having to break away from a responsibility or a tradition or a way of doing things that you've done for a long time or that everyone else is doing. When Uranus is active like this, it's very much about figuring out how to go your own way rather than to follow a tried and true path. So your Astro Tip for this week, starting November 11, be flexible, be spontaneous, celebrate individuality, and be open to doing things differently. It's a week about innovation and about trying new things. It's a great week to break away from habits or traditions that are feeling restrictive, that you don't have that exciting, genuine connection to. So really try something new. Just give it a shot. It's like conducting a series of experiments to see, is this still what I like? Maybe I like this more. And we don't know until we give things a try. So experimenting with something new or different is a great way to work with these super strong Uranus aspects this week. Let me know either in the comments or the poll section below what you're planning to shake up this week. And if you are ready to go deeper with your understanding of astrology, I hope to see you in beginner astrology class real soon. Thanks so much for listening. Have fun with those wild skies this week, and I'll be back with more next week. Take care.